Welcome to the CMO Spotlight.
And I'm here with Jonathan Adashek, who's the Chief Communications Officer and the Senior Vice President of Marketing and Communication for IBM. Welcome, Jonathan.
Joe, thanks for having me. Great to be here with you.
Absolutely. So, Jonathan, I wonder if we could start the conversation. We all are very familiar with IBM throughout the history of the company. It's been such a mainstay within the United States for so many years and the world. I'm wondering if you could start by just telling us a little bit more about what IBM is all about today.
Yeah, IBM has this great history. We're 111 years old. And today, we really are focused on being the leading hybrid cloud and AI company. And that's done through a series of ways. One is through our software and our technology offerings. So that's a piece of it. Our infrastructure offerings are part of it as well. And then we've got a world-class consulting arm as well. And we really help our clients address the biggest challenges that they face. And we use our expertise in the technologies and the business domains to help companies overcome their biggest challenges, take advantage of their biggest opportunities. And, you hear this phrase digital transformation everywhere, Fortune 500s to the smallest business around. And we're really helping companies do that and take advantage of what the opportunity is in front of them.
Excellent. Okay. And scale, size, scope, how big is IBM today? Like, do you have a ballpark of how many employees they are around the globe-ish?
250, 260,000 employees around the world. So we've got a big group of people who are, great partners to work with. I'm honored to be an IBMer and to work with them, and who have such passion for our business, for what we're doing, and for our clients and for our partners, and to make sure that they are successful in what they're doing too.
And no pinstripe suits anymore, right? That's not a part of the IBM culture as much so these days.
No, I'm not. You can see I'm not in my pinstripe suit. I've got stuff on my desk. I didn't shave this morning. It's all that kind of fun stuff.
Great. Well, we live in a new time. So I'm curious about your role. You have kind of a dual role, Chief Communications Officer, which I think is largely in the public relations realm, and then also SVP of Marketing and Communications. So just tell me a little bit about your role and maybe even your team. What does your team look like?
Yeah, so I joined in January of 2020, just before COVID hit, and I joined as Chief Communications Officer. And then in January of last year, in 2022, Arvind Krishna, our CEO, asked me to take on marketing as well. So last year, it was two separate teams that I was managing, but really heading down a path that was in the same direction. And it was to help the business grow and help our partners and our clients. But there were a lot of places that, it's sort of like magnets. When you get them, they're really nice. And then when you put them together, they repel, right? Poles will repel. That's what I saw as I dug into what was happening between marketing and communications. And as I dug in there, I found that if we intentionally got the two teams working together, that the work they were doing was exponentially better. So at the beginning of this year, we rolled it out at the end of last year, but at the beginning of this year, we implemented a combination of the two teams. And I should say, I also have CSR, which is a hugely important part of our business and what we do as a company. So we brought the teams all together to work more intentionally to drive forward what we're trying to do for our business, for our clients, for our partners. And so far, it has its hiccups. Obviously, whenever you do something like this, it's not perfect from the beginning, but we're seeing that when we put the teams together, that we are getting exponentially better results.
I love that. I think marketing and communications are, left hand, right hand within the organization, so they should be working together.
Yeah, without a doubt. Without a doubt.
So you've had a really, really interesting career. I know that the first part of your career was you're involved in politics and communications within politics. And then you at some point pivoted into the automotive industry. And so I wonder if you could just give us a quick tour of what is your career path that led you to what you're doing now for IBM?
Yeah, I was in communications. I mean, excuse me, I was in politics, but I wasn't doing communications in politics.
Okay. Okay.
But the way I look at politics, a presidential campaign is all about getting people to vote for you, right? Or, I did a lot of presidential campaigns. But you could apply that in other places. I worked in my mom's local school board race. And to me, those are all about telling stories and getting people to vote for you. And it's a very similar thing that I'm doing today. I work with a great team of people who we tell stories about what IBM is doing, about what our technology is enabling and what our consulting services are enabling. And we're trying to get people, clients, prospective clients, to vote for candidate IBM, but this time with their dollars and with, using it on a regular basis. So everything I do today, I do approach from a political campaign perspective. And it's, election day all the time, which can be tiring, but that's the way I look at it. But I was in politics. Then I went to, I was at Edelman, the large PR agency, for about 7.5 years, working on clients like Walmart, working for the UAE government, for Abu Dhabi government, launching some initiatives there, working for Microsoft and helping them with their retail stores. Then I went to Microsoft for a bit, working for the COO there on their field communications. Popped over to Nissan, was at Nissan for about 3.5 years in Japan. And then I moved to Paris, where I was running communications for Renault, Nissan, Mitsubishi Alliance overall. Stayed there for about a year and then came here to the US and landed at IBM in this amazing opportunity that I've got today.
And so where are you physically located now?
Beautiful Armonk, New York.
Okay.
You can see we're in the middle of an old orchard, is where our building is. So it's beautiful trees and it's a great place to be.
Excellent. So I'm curious if there's a piece of advice that either you wish you'd gotten early in your career, or maybe you would give to somebody that's just starting out in a marketing or communications career.
I'd give it to somebody no matter what role they're in. And it's don't run from something, run to something. Too often people run from something and they're just like, I got to get out, I'm going to go do anything. And they end up someplace that they're unhappy. And they regret it. And then it's another 6 months, year, 2 years of unhappiness before you get to fix that. People challenges are the most challenging thing I deal with. But if people run to something, I think they'll be much happier. And I think the outcome will be better for the business too.
I love that. So I believe that everybody has a superpower, and I'm curious what you think your superpower is.
I don't know. Transparency. I really try and be transparent with my team. Good, bad, ugly. I was talking to somebody the other day who is a partner of ours. Their company is a big partner of ours. And we're a big client of theirs. They're a client of ours. And she said to me, clear is kind, unclear is unkind. And that really stuck with me. But I've always practiced a measure of trying to be as transparent as I can.
Well, I smell a new superhero. It's Lucid Man, perhaps, or something like that.
That I might have a problem with the car company today, but yeah.
Yeah, true.
I'm there.
Fair. Okay. I'm curious where you find inspiration either for yourself or for your team, for that matter.
I find it in two places. One is clients and partners, and the great things that they're doing. Two is our team, the people we work with on a daily basis. So I work with some of the most amazing people around. Both internally and externally, and there's a lot of inspiration there. Every meeting I come out of, I learn something. Every interaction I have with somebody, I learn something.
That's good. I'm curious if there are some values that you want to demonstrate as a leader, or maybe values that you would demand for somebody on your team.
Yeah, I talked about transparency before. That's a key one for me. I try and be a servant leader as well, and ask that people who are on my direct reports try and take that same approach. And my team gets crazy when I say this. They don't like that I say it, but I like to be the dumbest person in the room.
Mm-hmm.
I like to hire people and be surrounded by people who are a lot smarter than I am and experts in their field. It's okay to not be the smartest person in the room all the time. And I can easily embrace not being the smartest person in any room.
Yeah, well, I think we all strive to work with the best people if we can. At least that's maybe the smartest thing, is to work with people who are better than you. So at Setup, we are connectors of brands and marketing agencies. We often are matchmakers between the two, and we don't live squarely on the agency side. We don't live on the brand side. We kind of live in that space in between.
Yep.
So we think a lot about that relationship between brands and agencies. I'm just curious, either at IBM or even in a previous life, generally, how do you work with agencies?
We work quite a bit with agencies on marketing and communications agencies and other ones, event agencies and specialty niche boutiques. But I see agencies, the best agency engagements are when they're a trusted extension of the team, and that you really are, you're in it together.
Mm-hmm.
And it's got to be a two-way street, because I truly believe agencies can only be as good as we let them be. If we give them lemons, we can't ask them to make champagne. It's just not going to work. And so we need to give them the best tools that we can to be successful and to deliver what we need them to do. We need to be explicit about what we're looking for them to do. And we have to have candid two-way conversations. And, I look at that from the role where I sit today as CMO and CCO, but I also look at it from, I'm involved in multiple pieces of business for our company. Excuse me. And I advocate for those clients that we have. And I recognize that we as clients to, as agencies or consultants or vendors to the businesses that we work with, we can also only be as good as they enable us to be. So it's this circle that I really see happening all the time. And I think it's an important thing to keep in mind.
So I'm curious if there are certain disciplines of marketing that you feel are core to your business and need to be kept in-house? And are there certain other disciplines of marketing that you almost always would want an outside perspective because you think that adds value?
I don't have a specific formula on that one, because I think it also depends on the team that you've got.
True.
Right. To me, it depends on the team you've got and the resources you've got, because sometimes you're going to say, I'm going to invest in this resource onto the team and it's going to cost me more, but this is what I really need to do. Other times you might say, I'm good with the bench I've got, and I'm going to invest these dollars into this effort from an outside agency because they've got a broader breadth of reach and scope and expertise there. So I think it's not a simple, these always go there and this always goes there for me.
Yeah.
It's a mix.
One of the services that we offer is called marketing ecosystem consulting or marketing ecosystem planning. And part of the reason we offer that service is that, as you sort of alluded to, every company is completely different in terms of what does Nirvana look like in terms of the internal team and the external resources that could be agency or other. And the right mix of those resources is quite dependent on the different business that you might be in and all of that. And so part of what we do is try to help companies think through what that Nirvana should look like, and then help them put together a roadmap to get from where they are today to the ecosystem that's the right fit for them. Of course, just with a marketing system. We're not talking about the larger company, just marketing specific.
Yeah, I mean, it changes, right? A colleague just called me the other day because they were dealing with something, their a peer at another company, and we were talking about how their team was structured, and they just wanted to pick my brain on something, and they, somebody I've known for a long time. And we got into some numbers, and their team is not even a tenth the size of mine, but their budget is more than double mine.
Wow.
Right? So it's how do you want to structure it? That was better for them in that situation.
Yeah, and it just means that they're probably managing more external resources than your team is doing more in-house than they are.
Yeah. Exactly.
So as marketers or communications professionals, sometimes we are working with those that aren't in marketing really closely. And how do you demonstrate the value of marketing, especially brand marketing, things that don't have direct ROI necessarily? How do you demonstrate that to the non-marketing functions within the organization?
Well, first and foremost, I really try and make sure there's zero daylight between marketing and the sales team and the consulting team, our technology and our consulting businesses. And that we're really aligned to exactly where we're trying to go as a business. I recognize that as marketers and comms, our job is to create and capture demand for the company. And 100% of leads that come into the company begin with us in some way, shape, or form. But there is the challenge of some people think demand is only owned by marketing, and I really disagree with that. It's owned by everybody across the business, no matter if they engage with clients directly or partners directly, or if they don't. And I think there's three main ways that we try and work closely with the organization to make sure that everybody understands what's going on. First, the context and the understanding that the market and the business, the needs that they have, they need to share with us so we can so we have more context around what's going on, so we can create better content to deliver to what they need to do. But at the same point, we have to share our context back to them about what we're hearing from clients and partners, and from the market as a whole. Two is co-creation, and really co-creating plans together with the business that we're supporting or the geography that we're supporting, to make sure that they understand what the plan is, and then along the way, sharing the outcomes of that, right? And then finally would be communications. Not everything goes according to plan, right? And not everything is perfect along the way. So how do you communicate on what's upcoming, on metrics, on follow-ups, on experiences, on where we can get better, what's going well, and how we amplify that across the business? So if you take those three principles, I think those are the three that are helping us really regularly making sure that the business knows what we're doing.
Yeah, and what I heard, and part of what you said, particularly that second point, is that storytelling is still key as part of all of this, because sharing back the outcomes and the results, it's all about telling stories to the non-marketing functions so that they understand the why you're doing what you're doing and all of that.
Yeah. You've got to, they've got to understand it, because it's easy for people to throw stones at the house, but if they don't have the view of what's going on, then it's much easier for them to do it. And so you got to get in front of that and make sure everybody understands that we're in this together with them. Their success is our success.
So I'm curious if there's a campaign or a program, either at IBM or maybe in a previous life, where you learned a really valuable lesson, either because it was a miserable failure and you needed to learn that lesson from the failure, or maybe it was a huge success that you'd like to emulate again in the future.
I'm going to be really biased and say the recent Let's Create campaign for us has been one that has taught me so much. It has taught me about getting more focused as a company and more focused as a business, because before we had over 40 campaigns in the market. Now we've got one. It's about making sure people understand what we're doing, both internally and externally. And it's been one that's allowed us to really prioritize our work. So there are a lot of other great campaigns that other people have done, but I'm going to be biased right now for this one.
Yeah, totally fair. All right, I'm going to wrap things up with some fun questions, not necessarily specifically related to marketing. The first is there a quote or a book or a movie or a band or a sports team that inspires you? And what is it about that thing that inspires you most?
Well, for sports, I'm all Wisconsin all the time. So I love watching my Wisconsin sports, but I'm a huge Grateful Dead fan. And I love listening to their music, listening to them as a band, and how they each play their part and how they can all go their separate ways in a song and then come back to that place together and give this amazing experience for everybody who's listening or was at the show. And I love to watch some of the technological advances that they brought to the music industry that people don't recognize over time. I love watching that as I've gone to see them. So that's where I would be.
Are there analogies for for marketing and communications with the way the band gels together from their, and each plays their part, or no?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's as simple as that. Each plays their part and they trust each other to do what they need to do, and they all know what they need to come back to come back together to keep going at certain points. And sometimes they all know when to come back together, and sometimes it's Jerry Garcia bringing them back into a space where they're all coming back together. And it's not always Jerry, it's not always the lead guitarist there, but I think that is the key part. You got to trust each other to do your part, to do their part.
Does the love continue for Dead & Co. and the newer iteration, or is it just?
It does. I think John Mayer is a fantastic guitarist. Yeah. And I said that before he joined, but he's a great guitarist. He does great stuff, and I'm just a huge fan. I love the music. Still fun to go see him.
Excellent. I'm curious if there's a brand that you've never worked on that you really admire, and what is it about that brand that you admire most?
I think the two that sort of stick out for me the most are Disney and Nike. They're really, large, iconic brands. They've engaged with their customers, clients in a way that is second to none, and really has developed a level of brand loyalty and commitment that I think you can't find in many other places.
Totally fair. So I'm curious, outside of your family, where do you find joy? Do you have hobbies or things that you like outside of work and family?
A lot is with family, but I do, like I said, I'm a big Grateful Dead fan. I love live music. I love to go see music whenever I can. I love to get outdoors whenever I can, and if that's riding a bike or going for a walk or a hike or a run, I love that. And just hanging out with friends and family, it's key.
Excellent. So Jonathan Adashek is the Chief Communications Officer, as well as the Senior Vice President of Marketing and Communications for IBM. Jonathan, this has been such an amazing conversation. Thank you so much for the time.
Thanks for having me, Joe. I really enjoyed this.